Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for connecting with us today. Today, I'm going to talk about the thought as per scriptures of the past, ancient scriptures. Teachings which have been shared by ancient masters of the past. Within everybody, each and every one of us, there's this huge battle which is raging on relentlessly 24 hours a day. This is the battle of the thought. And there is no other battle like this anywhere. The mind is the biggest battlefield that ever existed. And every moment this mind is being bombarded with thoughts. Thoughts driven from the three gunas. The Rajguna, the Tamguna, and the Sattvic. The three modes of our nature, the three modes of our existence. This causes us so much pain, stealing from us so much harmony and joy. These thoughts create so many enemies around us. They hurt so many hearts and damage so many emotions. These tsunami-like waves creating worry, doubt, confusion, anger. And they start having a profound effect on our psychological behavior, our emotional well-being, and our physical behavior, especially when they start manifesting into stress, heart palpitations, uncontrolled breathing, sweat, so much in which they manifest through our bodies. Not to mention our connection with the divine. This mind, which was a reflection of the divine, has fallen victim to the dark forces of Maya. Maya meaning that illusion which creates around us a separation of reality from the reality. And as we became close to Maya, as we fell victims to Maya, we became exposed to the foot soldiers of Maya. And who are the foot soldiers of Maya? Kam, which is lust, Krodh, which is anger, Lobh, which is greed, Moh, which is attachment, and Ahankar, which is ego. Consequently, this divine spiritual territory, this mind, this divine mind, gave ground, conceded to the forces of Maya. And as we started to grow into this world, we began to lose our relationship with the divine. There was a time when the garden of the mind was like the Garden of Eden, a place of bliss, delight, and contentment. Here, there was no winter storms of discontent. A garden so beautiful, so divine, where the light of love and peace shone brightly. A garden where the beauty of the thought gave life to others who were withering away. A garden that was kept cool in the blowing winds of the Shabd Naad, the Anahatul, the divine word, the Naam, whether it be Allah, whether it be Wahiguru, whether it be Jesus, whether it be Buddha, all the same. And this garden, in separation from the divine, has become a deserted wilderness, a barren, cold, empty land, where the winds of the Shabd, of the prophets, of the Waheguru, of the Jesus, of Allah, of Ram, of Om, has been replaced by the winds of pain and tears. So what happened? We were born divine. So what happened? I have a granddaughter, 3 weeks old, and I see her. And I see so much purity in her. She's forcing her eyes to open to connect with this world, but there is another connection deep inside her that she wants to remain connected to. I look into her eyes and so much purity, you can literally go straight into the depth of her soul. So what happened from there to where we are today? We are rich in wisdom. We are rich in spiritual practices. We are rich in intellect. We are rich in money. In every way we have grown, but not in the divine. In the divine way, we have fallen behind. So let's go back and let's understand this before we actually came into this mother's womb of ours. According to scriptures of the past and the present, divine souls, they say, before we entered the mother's womb, we were called by our Divine Father. And the Divine Father sat us down and told us that we are going to enter into the world of Maya and be aware of the false illusions of Maya, the mistress of the dark. And we've all had this conversation before we came. And that child, that newborn child, remembers that conversation. And our Father told us not to engage in the game of Maya, not to fall asleep in a temporary home that many thought was theirs, but yet nobody could stay there forever. Just a one-night stay we have here, in spiritual terms, one-night stay. And that at all times, my child, remember me, your Father. And with this guidance, we was placed into the mother's womb. And in that womb, we were still connected and protected by the Shabd, by Allah, by Ram, by Waheguru, by Om. We were protected. And then the time came, and after 9 months, we entered this world. To a fanfare of ahs, congratulations, ain't she beautiful, isn't he beautiful? But the child is still connected. The child is completely oblivious to what people are saying. It's connected. In the mother's womb, the child was in bliss. When the child is born into this world, the child is still in bliss, in absolute purity. There was no Maya. The child was swimming in the infinite richness of the divine, infinite richness. And that child's divine vision is absolutely strong. The connection is absolutely perfect. And then what happens? From birth, we were started to train to function in a manner that made us feel human. So, responsible parenting was, let's connect this child. Let's understand there's the body, there's the child, and there's the divine aspect of the child. But we forget the divine aspect. Christening a child, taking the child to the temple, it all becomes a formality. Just a formality. And we come home, parties, enjoyment, and so on and so forth. And so this child is now being conditioned to become more human. And as a consequence, the child begins to grow deeper into the world. That which was is no longer. In certain cultures, when the child was born, they would honor many, many days of peace and quiet and gradually break the child into this earth. Gradually. They would recreate this atmosphere that the child was born into, and they would recreate it outside as well. But those understandings have long gone. Those teachings have long gone. So the child comes and it starts developing new tastes. New relationships are placed upon the child. Oh, that's your mummy, that's your daddy, that's your uncle, there's your aunt, and there's your siblings, and there. But where's the divine? Where is that divine? That divine who protected that child, that divine voice that told that child before they came, look, be aware of this, and this. When you send your child into a university or into another country, you will sit and talk to your children. And our Divine Father did exactly the same with us. But we forgot. We forgot. And as a consequence, we fell into what we call the three gunas. There are three modes of the mind. Rajgun, Tamgun, Sattvic, and then you've got your 10th gate. And those three modes, even the Sattvic mode, is classified as a very low mode. This, in spirit, many people will have much experiences when they meditate and they think they've reached, but no, it is still the lowest form. Those are the three forms in which Maya plays. It's the mode of passion, mode of ignorance, and the mode where it fools you that you're becoming very spiritual, that you're doing very spiritual things, and it's making you feel good, and you're going out to preaching to people, but you are stuck in that mode. And a wise spiritualist knows that they have to even jump above the Sattvic mode. And then the journey of spirituality starts, and not before. The real journey starts when you go past the Sattvic stage. So as our relationship, which was cemented with the divine, slowly gets replaced with the glitz and glamour of the false illusions of Maya, the seductress, that mind, which was once infinite, falls into the abyss of the finite. The moment it falls into the finite, it loses its divine protection. And we become refugees in the city of ghosts, in the world of illusions, in the world of I love them, I love you, you are mine, I am yours. What happens? Love goes old, people disappear, love changes. There is no concept of love. There is no understanding. It was all attachment. Here, Maya becomes our everything. Jivan do hagani, mukhi duje paye, the scriptures. Dohagani is almost like we've found a mistress. We've left our Divine Father, and now we have sold our soul to the devil, to the shaitan, to Maya. And the moment we do this, this door of duality opens, and we enter into the theater of illusions. Like a person who is watching a movie in a theater, and the lights dim, and the projection switch is on, the movie starts. And on the screen, there's a plot, there are color, there are smiles, there is music, there is song, there is blood, there is death, there are tears, there are everything. And we are connected to this movie for 2 whole hours. And we feel the pain, we feel the joy, we're actually in the movie. Every part of us is in that movie. And then the movie comes to an end, the lights switch on, and you look at the empty screen, There were no dead bodies. There was nobody crying. There was no tears. There was no laughing. There was nothing. You just fell asleep. You just got carried away with an illusion. And yet from start to finish, we were completely engaged every second in what was being played in front of us. And we go through a bunch of experiences that were not real, yet felt real in the moment. In a similar way, as we come into life, into this theater of illusions, we too become engrossed in this movie of life. This movie, which is a combination of all our karmic existences, all played in the backdrop of our own consciousness. Nothing is out there. This movie is being played in our consciousness. It's a very personal movie, projected on our own personal theater, played out in our own little universe. We all have our own little universes. In this one universe, there are millions and billions of universes. So engrossed are we in this movie, we laugh, we cry, we get attached. Then we cry when somebody leaves us or somebody wrongs us. Then there is fear, then there is tears. And we react to every experience, every situation, every emotion in total engagement. We become completely attached to this movie. We forgot that what we see and experience is no more than an illusion. It is not real. And yet somehow this illusion becomes our truth. And in this illusion, we create friends, we create enemies, we have hatred, we have anger, we have bitterness, we have jealousy. And we fall in love with false identity of love. What is love? What is love? Does anybody understand what love is? I love my dog, I love my handbag, I love my car, I love my dress, I love my house, I love. Is that love? There is another love, it's a mystical love. A mystical love that only a true connoisseur of the divine will ever understand. So like all movies, our movie must come to an end. And it will. Understand that the consciousness from which we were created has no moving parts. In divine consciousness, there is no moving parts. There are no stories, there are no emotions. It's just purity and absolute bliss. Yet somehow, in the fragmented consciousness that we carry, there is separation, there is anger, there is frustration. Why? Because distancing ourselves from our divine prophet, whoever we believe in, wherever our faith lies, we fall and get influenced by the shades of Maya, the devil, the shaitan. Consequently, this consciousness, which should have been pure, becomes the total field in which all our thoughts, our relationships, our motives, our emotions, our desires, our pleasures, our fears, our aspirations, our longings, our hopes, our sorrows, our joy begin to function. We were supposed to be observers of this movie, yet somehow we became participants. So how did this contamination start? How did we fall from grace? The scriptures of the East teach us in this way, of the Guru Bani. Pehle pyar laga than dudh, duje maaye baap ki sudh, tije pya bhabhi be चौथे प्यार उपन्नी खेड़, पांचवें खान पियन की धात, छेवें काम न पुछे जात, सातवें सांझ किया घर वास, आठवें क्रोध हुआ तन नास, नौवें थोड़े उभे सार, 10वें दद्दा हुआ सुआ, गैस की पुगारी था, उड़िया हंस दसाएरा, आया गया मैं आना, पिछे पातो सद्यो का, नानक मनमुख अंध प्यार, बाज गुरु डुबा संसार. In the first stage, we develop love for the mother's milk. Watch how the play starts. Now, milk. If that mother had been meditating through her pregnancy, that milk would have been pure. We call Amrit. But no. In absence of that knowledge, in absence of we are what we see, what we hear, what we eat, that forms our mind, the type of food that we eat, that creates a profound impact, not just on the body, but also on our spirituality. And in absence of that knowledge, the first process of detachment starts. Then in the second stage, the baby develops the awareness of mom and dad. Developing further to siblings and other cousins and aunts. In the fourth stage, the desire of playing with toys and friends awaken. In the fifth, chasing after food. I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. I don't want to eat that. Tantrums. In the sixth stage, as the child develops, a sexual desire develops. An appetite, uncontrolled, no respect for social customs, abusive, angry, frustrated all the time. And in the seventh, the desire to create wealth in whichever way. I need to have a big house, and my car has to be better than my next door neighbor's. My home has to be bigger than somebody else's. In the eighth, the emotions of anger. Why? Because sometimes our dreams are going to be unfulfilled. So these emotions of anger, they begin to consume our body. And in the ninth stage, as age goes by, in our anger, in our lust, in our desires, this black hair starts to turn white. And we look at ourselves, my God, where's my energy gone? I don't have the same energy. And breathing becomes labored. And I can tell you that when I come up the stairs, I'm panting. Yeah, not this age kicking in. And then in the 10th stage, death takes over. The body is cremated, turned into ashes, and family and friends are crying and lamenting. And in this theatre of illusions, many have come and many have gone. But the turnstiles of life will just go round and round and round. Carry on spinning. And for many yugas, it has been spinning. And in the sands of time, our names will disappear. Can you remember who your great-great-great-great-grandfather was? Of course not. All disappeared, all gone into the sands of time. And what remains is the cremated body and the remnants of that eaten by the crows in India. And Baba Nanak Ji says that the self-willed, ignorant mind that had detached itself from the divine, fallen in love of Maya, and in this darkness, without the true Guru, they will drown. In fact, the whole world is drowning. And I tell you, even spiritualists, you know why? They have professional jealousy. They have lack of understanding. They have, in the sattvic stage, what we call a ego, very deep-seated ego. Man muni mun margale, man sab hai ko khai. So, understand that as we becomes separated from the root of the truth, which is Allah, Waheguru, Jesus, Ram, Buddha, wherever your belief lies. Don't argue. The source is one. You look at this mountain. You can climb the west or the north or the south or the east or anywhere. You can take a drink from any side of this mountain. When you go all the way to the top, that source is the one. Not two, not three, not four. One source. But we argue over the flow. My north side is better, my south is better, my east is better, my west is better. It's not. Go higher, raise your mind, go higher, and you realize that is not the case. The source is one. From time to time, prophets come. They come in certain time zones. They come with certain, they are looked at in different ways. The teachings are different, but the essence is the one. So a distance was created from our Divine Father. We were all born children of the divine. You know who you are? You are the prince and the princesses of the divine. Each and every one of you. You are not poor. You are rich in heritage. Because you were born from one divine Father. But sadly, in the illusion of Maya, we became spiritually ugly. Our practices became very elaborate. The way I dress, the way I look, the way I talk, the temple, the size of the temple, the size of my ashram, the size of my institution. But we spiritually have become ugly. You know why? Because we've lost our divine innate values. And we have become emotionally impoverished. This movement from the divine to the Maya created an imbalance in the thought, which created a fog in the mind. And this dense fog deprived us from all the divine teaching, the secrets of the universe, and the access to the 10th gate. They all disappeared. They all became invisible in this fog of Maya. Our mind, which was designed to function in the sensory world in the most beautiful way, should have been under the control of the higher mind. There was a system in place. However, we have sold ourselves to the lower mind. What is the higher mind? The higher mind is what we call the self. What is the self? Self is what we call the Atma. What is the Atma? Atma is a character of subjective consciousness which is not related to anything other than the divine. A subjective consciousness which is not related to anything other than the divine. Therefore, your Atma, my Atma, every Atma is the same. Because in its purity, it's not related to anything. It's just related to the one essence. But sadly, we are in the force of Maya. And in this way, there's a triad of self-control, self-discipline, and self-realization. And they all disappear. And the clouds of negative thoughts become dense and heavy. The transformation of our character from the higher to the lower stars. Let's go back a few yugas. Many yugas back, in ancient India, there was a person by the name of Ajamal. Ajamal was born in a very priestly class family. From birth, he was raised in a very religious environment. And he was well versed in Sanskrit. He was well versed in the 4 Vedas. He was well versed in the 18 Puranas and many other religious texts. His father was of high integrity, a well-educated priest in the service of a king. And he would sit Ajamal down and say, Ajamal, let me teach you something. Whenever you go to town, Do not go to the south part of the city. And dutifully, Ajamal followed his father's instructions. In time, Ajamal was married and he had children. Soon, his father passed away, and Ajamal was appointed as the Raj Purohit. Raj Purohit meaning the chief priest of the kingdom. His life carried on as normal, and he was doing his religious duties. Then one day, he made a visit to the city. He tied his horse to a tree, and on the outskirts of the city, as he always did, he tied the horse, and as he was going to make a walk, he heard two people talking. And they said, "Oh, we just come from the south side. It was beautiful. We had so much fun." That's all. Those words, he says. And those words had so much profound impact upon him. His mind started thinking, "I've never been to the south side. I wonder what it's like. Wonder how beautiful that south side was." And that one thought destroyed all the teachings. And an impulse, a desire, was created within him. I wonder what the south side looks like. And this thought became stronger and stronger within him. So much so that he forgot his father's instructions. He stopped, turned around, and began his way to the south side. As he entered into the south side of the city, the first thing he saw was alcohol. He'd never seen that before. And then there were brothels. Scantily dressed ladies standing outside luring customers. He'd never experienced anything like this. He was shielded. His eyes fell on one such woman. The woman seized the opportunity. She looked at Ajamal, and with a seductive glaze, she started to beckon him. His feet stopped. He could not go any further. And this young lady gestured, enticing him to come closer to her. And such was the power of Maya that despite all his religious upbringing, and this is for us religious people, I'm sharing this with you, we have to be alert all the time. And despite all his religious upbringing, he fell victim to the dark allures of Maya. He could no longer resist the temptation and began to follow her. They started an affair, and he began a double life, preaching on one side and a regular visitor to this lady. There is a saying that there's nothing that stays hidden in this world, and there's nothing that stays hidden in the divine world. People started to gossip, and this gossip reached the king. And despite the king's advice, he had a lot of respect for his father, but Ajamal's eyes were just full of lust. He could not hear any logic. He was not prepared to listen to any logic. And his wife begged him. He could not see the losses. Just lust, complete infatuation. And he would spend all his money on this lady. Eventually, enough was enough. The king took over all the property, gave that to his wife, and he kicked Ajamal out of the kingdom. Slowly, Ajamal became destitute. No money, no respect, no work. He fell from grace all the way to the bottom, where even the average person would not look at him. Keep away from. So Ajamal started to cut trees, make logs, and sell them. Even then, Maya did not let go. Maya was not happy. Maya was going to break him down. And so any money he was earning from this sale of this wood, he still went on gambling and drinking and womanizing, living a reckless life. And soon he grew into old age. and he developed many health problems. No work, his youth had faded, his divine blessings all disappeared, and now he was full of regret. And daily he would sit there and tears would stream down his frail face. And he would remember the words of his father, "Son, Ayamal, Maya is that mistress who belongs to no one. She comes alone and she will take everything away from you." One night there was a knock on the door. Ayamal opened the door. He sees a sadhu, a saint, a pious preordained soul standing outside. It was raining, and he said, "Could you please give me refuge for a night?" Ayamal let the saint in. He gave him his personal bed. He fed him, looked after him. And that night he did as much service seva as he could to make the saint comfortable. Morning came, the weather cleared up. And as the sadhu was about to leave, he looked at Ajam. He sensed that at one time, this was a good soul. He was a good soul who had become a victim of Maya. This Maya is powerful, powerful. Just look what happened to Jesus right at the end. One of his own let him down. The sadhu looked into Ajamal's future and saw his death was imminent, and that his death was going to be painful because of his reckless engagement with Maya. He saw the Jamdus, they're the messengers, they're the demons that come and take your soul out of your body, beating this old man while they were dragging his soul out of the body. The sadhu became merciful, the saint. He looked at Ajamal and said, "Ajamal, for all that you have done for me last night, I bless you. You will have another son, but name him Narayan." Narayan is another name of the divine, another divine virtue. The saints work in very strange ways. They cannot work, they cannot expose the divine law, but they work in parallel. And when you spend time with a saint, you have to listen to the words very, very carefully. And saying these words, the sadhu left. True to the words of the sadhu, Ajamal had another child, whom he named Narayan. And he would call him, "Narayan, come here, Narayan, let's do this." And then so much good times they spent together. Narayan, 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 Narayan. And somehow, this word Narayan started giving him so much comfort in his soul. And as old age kicks in, those days go very, very quickly. And the final moments came. And Ajamal knew that he was going to leave this body, and he started crying, full of fear.
Narayan, Narayan.
He shouted, "Help me, help me, save me, save me." He was shouting to his son. But such was the blessings of the saint. When the angels of the divine came, they said to the demons, "This soul of Ajamal belongs to us." Why? Because one night he spent with a saint, and he served that saint with complete humility, total love, and dedication. And this saint has blessed him. You cannot touch him. So at the end, Ajamal's soul was not ripped from his body. Ajamal's soul was taken up gently, beautifully, and it was carried just by one night's service. Such were the hidden blessings in the word of the preordained saint. Such was the power of the Narayan. And Ajamal achieved in one moment what many yogis desire to achieve after many years of penance, Ajamal achieved in a moment. Because what he did in that one night was based on faith of serving the divine soul. And in the scriptures of the Guru Bani, it says, Ajamal ko antakal mein Narayan sub aayi, jagat ko jogishar banshat sogat shen mein pai. That which the yogis pined for after years of penance, Ajamal just achieved in a second. Now let's reflect upon this. Is this story true for us today as well? Where do we fall into this? Because after all these teachings about self-reflection, have we not drifted away from the words of the divine? Let's not look at our outside clothing. Forget that. They mean nothing. Let's self-evaluate ourselves in an honest and frank way. Have we not drifted away from the word of the divine? Are we not lured by Maya in different forms? The holy scriptures guide us, the holy saints advise us, yet have we still not taken a walk towards the dark side? Do we carry that anger, that bitterness, that professional jealousy, my institution, my followers, my camps, my yoga studios, me, do we not have that? Because if we have, then we are well and truly stuck in Maya. We are no better. In fact, my master used to say to me, son, you are worse. If you know what is right and you're still doing what is wrong, the punishment for you is far more greater than somebody who is ignorant from the first place. Because we are doing it deliberately. So Maya is powerful. And remember one thing, we are only one thought away from falling into the charms, into the prey of Maya. The existence of all of us individuals, our characters, our innate thoughts, emotions, moods, and actions have been defined and influenced by the society that we keep. Hence, all wise spiritualists will teach you one teaching: Sangat, Sangat, Sangat. Select your society, select your society, select your society. Why? Because whichever society that you keep, they will generate thoughts. Those thoughts will generate emotions. Those emotions will generate moods. Those moods will generate words and actions. And combined, they will affect your destiny. In the society of the saints, you will be taught not to leave your thoughts unchecked. Your every thought, they will teach you to reflect upon. If thoughts are left unchecked, they will begin to create barriers, not only between ourselves and our loved ones, also with our divine. They will steal all our joy and potential. They will have a profound effect on our ability to make the right decisions at the right time. Remember, good thoughts will bear good fruit. Bad thoughts will bear bad fruit. Now, as humans, it's natural in difficult times for the thought perspective to be challenged. Perfectly natural. This is normal part of living. You wouldn't be human if you weren't challenged. You wouldn't be human if you don't fail at time to time. However, if these mood swings overflow into our personal lives, affecting our relationship with our loved ones, then we have a major problem that we need to deal with. To have a mood swing from time to time is normal, but to remain in the cesspit of negative thoughts is not normal. And just think of how much time we waste in our life simply by being moody. Think how many, every breath, every second is valuable. You cannot buy that. If you say at the last minute, Lord, I give you all my property, give me another breath, not a chance. It's not going to happen. Okay? But yet, we waste so much valuable life in being moody and argumentative. The divine calls you in the morning, son, get up, my daughter, get up, remind, meditate. I'm not in the mood. 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 Understand one thing. In spiritual teaching, thoughts in the final moment of your life will dictate where your soul will go. Everything that we do in our spiritual life, everything is just for that one final thought right at the end. That thought right at the end is going to dictate where your soul will go. All wise spiritualists who understand the text will tell you that. So the question arises, is there a cure for our uncontrolled thoughts? Where can we go? Where can we define our thoughts? Where can we generate those thoughts which will refine our emotions, which will give rise to pleasant moods, which will give rise to pleasant words? I'm going to say this again. Sangat, Sangat, Sangat. Sangat, Sangat, Sangat. That's And the challenges of life can come from many places. Of course it can do. Hey, I'm going through cancer. I have stage 4 cancer. I have a heart condition. I have a broken hip. I have a broken ankle. Whilst I'm doing this, I'm in the midst of my COVID. I'm struggling. So do we not have challenges? Of course we do. We all have challenges. But you don't let your challenges stop you from doing, to earn, to accumulate that wealth which is going to go with you. You don't do that. You rise above those challenges. And these challenges will come in life from many different places. Health issues, failing businesses, disruption or loss in a family, childhood traumas. Hey, childhood trauma, big problem. I've met so many children who've had such an experience, they felt unloved when they were young, and they can't shake it off. They have their children, but there's something in that mind, and it comes back, and it comes back, and it comes back. And that particular experience is haunting them, even though they have their own children, and yet they cannot enjoy life. Feeling of neglect, negative comments from people around you. It's understandable that any one of these or many others can make you feel low. That is part of life. On the worldly level, of course, there will be people, doctors say, oh, take this medication, go to the professionals and put you on antidepressants. But there are some cases where people are stuck in a time machine. And they will relive a certain event which happened many years back over and over again. It's just going around and around in their mind. They can't let it go. They cannot let it go. They grow in every way. They have families, they have beautiful children, they have everything, they have wealth, they have money, but their mind is stuck in a time machine. It's frozen somewhere. And it's like a needle of a record player that is stuck in one place on the vinyl. And the more we repeat this thought, the deeper that thought will etch into the vinyl of the mind. And in some experiences, in some people, they're so deep that it chokes the life out of them. A dead weight they're holding on their shoulders, which they cannot remove. A snapshot of a past event going around and around in their minds and stealing the joy of the present. Unable to forgive, unable to go past, just stuck there. Understand one thing. A rotten fruit in a basket will destroy all other good fruits in the same basket. One negative thought in your mind will destroy many positive thoughts. This is the importance. This is so valuable. This is why all divine teachers will say, keep a check on your thought. And please understand that the mind is stuck because we simply moved away from the divine, away from the Sangat, away from Simran meditation, and consequently the mind has become rooted in the three gunas, firmly rooted in the quicksand of three gunas. And the natural state of these three gunas, what are they? In the fourth stage, the divine is bliss, Sat Chit Anand. Okay? But anything under that is negative. So the natural state of the Rajgun, Tamgun, and the Sattvic through default is negative. And therefore, as we spend more and more time in these three modes of the mind, all our positive attributes will begin to diminish. Har bisarata tere gun galya. Away from the divine, your values, your divine virtues, they will all rot away like a piece of paper in water. The natural state of the mind was once joyful, vibrant, positive. It was a reflection of the divine. It becomes negative, and in this negative state, the mind creates a false sense of security. My family won't let me down. My husband won't let me down. My wife won't let me down. I have money. I have this. I have that. How many people have you seen when these just disappear like this? Just like that. And in this negative false sense of security, slowly one will start to lose the desire to do anything remotely positive. In any meaningful way, all actions will become superficial. The negative mind will always feel a victim. The mind will become lazy and spiritually dead. Whereas the positive mind is a creative mind, the negative mind will simply destroy. It will choke the life out of any ambitions that you have. You share something positive, I'm not sure. Negativity. And when we associate ourselves with such negativity, that negativity is compounded. It will control us, and we will no longer have control in our lives. Remember, thoughts and emotions of negative people are infectious. And those who associate themselves with such people, it's only a matter of time when you will soon start thinking in that way. And these negative thoughts will create a barrier to our happiness, to our spiritual fulfillment, leading to a stagnant, unenthusiastic, tired, boring, no joy life. This Sangat is also known as Kusangat. And in this Kusangat, there will be a cascade effect of negative thoughts which will just prevent us from moving forward. Understand that what we plant is what we grow. If a bad crop gets into your field, it will also affect the surrounding crops. Sangat of negative-minded people will destroy your karma. Be under no illusions. That is how powerful wrong Sangat is. They will lead you to those values which are not pleasing to the divine, and they will simply destroy you from your roots. This is known as a jar. Just rip you from your divine roots. Ask an alcoholic, and they will say, oh, I'm in control of my drink. The drink controls them. Ask the Maya-minded person, oh, I'm in control. But really, Maya is controlling them. Understand, you look at somebody and they've got a beautiful body and you desire to have a body like that. It's not going to happen by simply standing next to them. You're going to ask them, hey, how did you build this body? They're going to say, follow this regime. Go to the exercise. Go to the gym. This is a discipline. This is a diet. It will take effort. Through association, nobody ever built a beautiful body. But yet, catching a cold from someone takes no effort. That will come simply through association. You spend a few minutes with somebody who's got a cold, you will come home and you'll be sniffling. Don't be surprised. This is the power of negative association. Therefore, the journey starts from Sangat. Always Sangat, always Sangat, always Sangat. Sangat of whom? The preordained souls. Those who have risen above the three gunas, The blind will never lead the blind. It doesn't happen. So find somebody who is enlightened. And then in their company, those who have walked the path, those who are not interested in your money or your glory, not interested in that, they shun that, not interested. And those who remain like a lotus in the murky waters, in that Sangat, you will inherit the ability to channel your energy towards that higher power, which will help to break the negative thought, to move the mind from the finite back into the infinite. In the divine Sangat, through the torch of the mantra, Allah, the name of Allah, the name of Jesus, name of Waheguru, name of Buddha, in whichever torch you have, it will shine a light into the shadow world of the mind, Maya mind. In that place where the thoughts take shape. And in this way, one will slowly begin to free themselves from this cycle of negative thoughts. One will begin to understand the divine intellectual wisdom known as Gurmat. Slowly, the mind will discover its rich heritage and will begin to force its way back to the infinite. Seva, Sangat, Simran. Seva, serving. Sangat, the company of the divine, the preordained, and Simran, meditation. One will start to find a more positively balanced perspective on life, creating in time nirvana inside them and nirvana around them. Therefore, associate yourself with the Sangat and with your divine scriptures. And in time, you will be positive in your thoughts. You will begin to develop a crystal clear understanding. You will understand that life, the good and the bad experience of life are natural. They are karmic. What flows around us will flow in the way it was always meant to flow. You will no longer be the actor. You will be the observer. You will realize that you never had any enemies. You never had any friends. All was a blank screen. You will realize that from time to time, we will all get overwhelmed with negative emotions. That's human. However, there is no place for attachment to those emotions. Angry? Yes. To be attached to anger and become bitter? No. In the Sangat of the divine, and you meditate with passion and focus on the Shabd, no longer will the mind be affected. We will lose our unhealthy thoughts. We will take back control of the spiritual territory that we had lost. And as we take back this territory of the mind, our mind will become pure once again. Our mind will become that walking stick by which we will traverse through the dark world of Maya. We then will be able to hold the hands of others and also lead them out of this world. Thank you so much. God bless you. It took about 10 minutes longer than I wanted, but I thought it's important to finish this off. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking 10, 15 minutes extra of your time. Indeed, send you back to you, son.